Welcome to A Day in Her Life podcast. I'm your host, Ellie Rinnick, and I am fascinated by how other women make their days work. I am so excited for you to hear this week's episode with Lindsay Cadigan. Lindsay is the director of events for Boston Magazine, author of the children's book Betty the Confetti Yeti, and mom of twin 6-year-old boys. Lindsay shares how she came to write a children's book and wants everyone to write one now, how her boys have become her focus group, and how her mornings with them are her favorites. Lindsay is honest about the goal of having dinner together every night, but that not always happening, and also how she's not a naturally organized person and needs to have her systems to stay organized. We also chat about the importance of making special time with girlfriends and giving grace because we're all so busy in this phase of our lives. This conversation with Lindsay was so refreshing. Thank you so much to Lindsay for being a guest on the podcast. You can follow Lindsay at The Confetti Cadigan on Instagram and order her book at bettytheconfettiyeti.com. My kids giggled all the way through it. What kid doesn't love confetti? And thank you for spending a part of the day in your life with A Day in Her Life. If you're loving what you're hearing, please share the podcast with a friend, subscribe on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and leave a review. If you want more A Day in Her Life, please follow on Instagram at A Day in Her Life Pod or subscribe to our newsletter on adayinherlife.com. Also, since we don't currently have any sponsors on A Day in Her Life, again, if you're listening and want to sponsor us, hit me up at adayinherlife.com. I wanted to share about an organization doing good. The Confetti Foundation is a 501c3 with a mission to supply birthday parties to children spending their birthdays in the hospital, pediatric oncology unit, or hospice. The hope is that the kids and their families will be able to shift focus and celebrate. While it's not a cure, it's a reminder that every kid deserves to be celebrated on their birthday. The Confetti Foundation partners with hospitals and birthday fairies all over the U.S. To learn more and to donate, you can go to confettifoundation.org. Lindsay's children's book character, Betty the Confetti Yeti, knows how important celebrations are, and I am happy to share this organization with you. All right, now to the episode. Let's have some fun. All right, so welcome to A Day in Her Life. Today, Lindsay Cadigan is joining me to discuss A Day in Her Life. Hi, Lindsay.
Hi there. How are you, Ellie?
Good. Thanks so much for joining me today.
I'm so excited to be here. This is so fun. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. Let's jump right in. If you wouldn't mind, can you set the scene for us and fill us in on where you live, what you do, what your family looks like? All those
Sure.
things.
Yeah, of course. So I live in Charlestown, Massachusetts, an amazing, amazing town. I live with my husband. We have twin almost 6-year-old boys. They turn 6 next month. They keep us incredibly busy. I am an event planner. So I am the director of events for Boston Magazine. I've been with them for almost 2 years, and I am a children's book author as well. My book, Betty the Confetti Yeti, came out at the end of 2022.
Awesome. I can't wait to read that. So, Lindsay, if you wouldn't mind, let's go through a day in your life. Let's start with your morning. So, on a typical day, or if you have a specific day in mind, what do your mornings look like?
Yes, and I will tell you that my days it's rare for one day to look similar to another because I feel like things are always moving at like lightning speed. But the typical day usually will start with both of my boys waking up. They share a room. I can hear their little voices on the monitor chit-chatting with each other, which is always so hysterical. And I hear their little feet come running upstairs around 6:30. So we've made it to 6:30. I'm fortunate that now it took us 6 years, but they're great sleepers. So they get up, and then I usually get up with them. We do breakfast. One of my kids, Raymond, Ray always wants chocolate chip pancakes. So he typically convinces me to make those for him. And then Ryan, I always will make eggs, or he'll have cocoa bunnies. So it depends how much time we have in the morning and kind of what we're working with. But I'm usually on breakfast duty. So I get up, get the kids kind of situated with that. Their breakfast, they'll eat, we'll chit chat. I kind of try to set the tone for the day, talking about what do we have going on coming up at school and what is going on with some of your friends. So it's just some really nice time that I have with the boys. And I start getting them ready for school. My husband will get up shortly after, join all of us, finish getting them ready. And then the boys usually head out the door shortly after 8 o'clock. So as soon as they leave, that's when I kind of have to switch gears, and I'll really try to spend 10 to 15 minutes just trying to clean up the aftermath of just the morning, because the boys are like tornadoes just flying through, and it's really impressive what the size of the mess that they make in such a short amount of time. It really is. It's like, I don't know how you guys just did that. So I will try to take like 10 to 15 minutes to try to clean up the kitchen and get situated before I launch into work. So then I'll jump in the shower, get ready to go, and I work full-time remotely. So I, am strapped to the house, kind of like I don't leave to go into an office, and will then kind of jump on the computer, start checking my email, and check in with all of my colleagues. So even though I am not in an office, I feel like I spend most of the morning checking in on emails, getting kind of my priorities of what I need to do for some of the upcoming events. I do about 15 to 18 events a year for the magazine, and spend some time just kind of breaking down what needs to get done this week, this day, this month, and really just trying to stay focused on some of those things, because it is so much. The volume is so much of what needs to actually like get done. And so I really try to just prioritize certain things throughout the day. So I'll spend the morning really kind of getting organized and making sure that I know what needs to get done during that time. And so from then until I would say like 1 o'clock, I'm usually at the computer doing that, or meeting with some of the different clients or corporate sponsors. And then I will usually leave. So I try to leave my house at least once a day, see the light of day, get out. And several times, at least once or twice a week, I'm usually going out to do something event related. So I'm either meeting with a vendor, having lunch with someone in PR that has maybe a restaurant that wants to get involved with one of our events, or I am going to do site visits and tours and walkthroughs with our corporate sponsors for the upcoming events over at the venue. So I'll usually go do that. And even if I don't have a meeting, I still will try to get out, go walk Charlestown, check in on some of my favorite shops, just spend an hour out. And then when I get back, I usually will then try to spend a little bit of time just here at the house, what needs to get done, throw in a load of laundry, and then jump back on the computer and dive back into some emails of what needs to get done. And then even though my full-time job is event planning, and that takes up the majority of my day and my focus, I always will try to find 1 hour or a pocket of time to dedicate to the my children's book and the Confetti brand that I'm trying to build and what's coming up next. So I wouldn't say that is the priority, because I obviously have a full-time job that I'm doing, and there is so much that's going on with that, but I'll try to carve out where is an hour, and there might be a pocket of time during the day I can do it, or that might get pushed towards the night, or I might push it to the next morning and get up at 5 and try to spend some time doing that. And then I pick up my boys usually by 5 o'clock. They do after school. So they have soccer, lacrosse, the Lego club, they're in all of these different sort of activities. So following their day at kindergarten, they usually do one of those after school activities. And then I'm on pickup duty. So I go pick the boys up at 5 o'clock, and usually we'll touch base with the teacher, see how the boys are doing, how was their day, and just really trying to ensure that I'm carrying through whatever went on at school, carrying through that at home. So I feel like trying to stay on the same page with the teacher has been really important. And, the boys are very high energy. They are so much fun. They love to play, but, they're in kindergarten. So just want to make sure that we're paying attention to what's going on, and I'll bring them home. And
does your husband do drop off?
Oh, yes. Yes. So I should have said that. Sorry. So every morning, when he comes up, he will kind of finish off. It's like the handoff. I feel like, we're a total team where we kind of divide and conquer. So my husband will always do drop off with the teacher and drop them off at the school. He'll walk them in, and then I always do the pickup at night.
Gotcha.
And then I usually, we'll meet with the teacher, check in on their day, bring them home, get them situated for dinner, and really just try to ask some pointed questions about what went on that day.
And you guys, what time do you guys usually get back from school and kind of start that after dinner or that after school at home routine?
So that's usually at 5:00. So their after school goes until 6, but I have just found it is such a long day for them. I try to grab them at 5, bring them home. And then what I do is they'll usually watch one of their favorite shows, which right now I would say is a mix of, it could be Paw Patrol, Octonauts. They're so different. And sometimes we do let them like go to one room, split them up a little bit, give them some time alone. And one of my boys, Ryan, is into every like furry, lovely, nice animal creature. And then my other one is into like just scary, terrifying things. So we sometimes have a hard time coming together to pick something to watch. But I would say like Octonauts has been really popular. Paw Patrol, continues to be popular. So they'll watch a show for about 45 minutes while I kind of get dinner situated and going. And then my husband will come home and we'll sit, we'll eat. We try to eat together a couple times a week if we can. And then following dinner, we'll either do some sort of activity or just relax. The boys are very into books, so we try to have them pick some books out. We'll read some of those books, talk about those, and then they usually will get in the shower, get them all situated, and then they usually are in bed between 7:30 and 8:00.
You mentioned you guys like to have dinner together most nights. What does dinner look like in your house?
To be totally transparent, we try. Like I would say the goal is like in a perfect world, we would love to sit down as a lovely family and have this lovely meal every night of the week. And it's few and far between. I would say it's like 1 or 2 nights we actually achieve that. And it's my husband will grill cheeseburgers. It's something universal that everybody is eating. And there's certain meals that are easier than others, I feel like, for us to do. The boys are they're picky eaters. So we try to do that to the best that we can, but it is so hard. I mean, my boys are very much the McDonald's and chicken nuggets and the Dino nuggets and the, all of those things. They're every now and then we'll try to weave in we try all the time. It just doesn't stick, but we keep trying, the vegetables and things like that. But it is so hard. And, I have found that when I have other sort of fun things, the kids are more interested. So we'll do a taco night, usually once a week. And when we do that, I got like this dinosaur that you can put the taco into. And now they're kind of more interested in tacos, all because of like this dinosaur like holder. So trying to just get a little bit more creative with getting them more interested in dinner and, just things like that. But they love eating together and they love talking about their day. And we just try to do as much as we can. And then on nights when that doesn't come together, my husband is still at work. He usually tries to get home around 6:30. But if he has something else that's going on, it's just me. I'll eat with the kids, or I'll wait for him and eat with him later. And the kids will just eat. And then my husband and I will eat after the kids go to bed, which is also nice because then it's time for us to actually speak to each other.
Yeah.
Which also is rare.
Definitely relate. Yeah. I can also relate to the pros and cons of that. Like you want to have dinner together. If it doesn't happen, you at least get to talk to your husband instead of like volleying comments over everyone's heads. So totally understand that struggle. After dinner, what does your evening look like now?
So after dinner and the kids, get showered and they'll head to bed. They usually, again, will do some more books and then, lights out by, I'd say like 8:00. And if we've eaten with them, we usually will if we don't have a ton going on, we're very much into documentaries. So we'll either watch certain documentaries that are on, or Love is Blind is something that my husband and I very much are into. So we will watch that.
I am on the edge of my seat. I'm almost at the last episode of this season. They're
Oh,
about
it's
to have the
good.
wedding days. Yeah, with
There's not many of them
Izzy
that have
and
made it. Oh,
Stacy.
I know
Yeah.
I know. It's been a really interesting season. Not many of them have made it. I mean, there's very few
No.
couples that still remain, but
There's only 2, right?
yeah, and there's usually
Yeah.
like 4 or 5. So
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to kind of see how that whole thing unfolds. But I love it. I feel like I used to be very into The Bachelor, and now I just am very much Love is Blind. I feel like I've
Same.
graduated from the Bachelor era.
Same.
But yeah, so we'll do that. And then my husband has been really busy at work, so he will usually be doing some work at night. And that is also a lot of the time that I will get on my computer and really like dive into the children's book stuff. And that is just a creative outlet that I stumbled into that I never really knew that I needed and how much I would love. And it's just one of my most favorite things that I get to do and is something that is just mine, if that makes sense. So I spend a lot of time at night usually doing something for that.
I would love to hear how you got into writing a children's book.
Yes.
How did this all come to be?
So it's really funny. I always loved reading when I was a kid. I was a very big Babysitters Club fan. I read and collected all of the books. I got to meet Anne M. Martin. I was always just fascinated with stories. And so as I kind of have moved, I never grew up saying, oh, I really want to write a book someday. That was really never on the list or part of the plan. And what ended up happening is I was in Minnesota visiting my family, and I was having coffee with my mom, and we were talking about high school. And I was joking, saying, my gosh, I just nothing really stuck with me. I was a horrible athlete. I tried out for every sport there was, horrible at all of them. I got, I think, like kicked off the golf team because I was disqualified for losing so many golf balls on the course. One day I tried out for dance, also not my thing. And I just had a hard time finding something that I was really interested in. And I started like crafting, and my mom was she was into parties and celebrating and doing different events. So I would help her a lot with different events and parties that she was doing and throwing. And that was just kind of something that I enjoyed. So when I was having coffee with her, we were talking about working in events. And she said, Lindsay, look at what you're doing now. Would you have ever thought that you'd be doing all of these things with events in Boston? And I said, no. I said, I wish that there would have been some sort of book about party planning when I was a kid. I feel like I would have started even earlier because it also took me a while to stumble into events. And she said, Lindsay, that's such a good idea. Why don't you write it? And I was like, you know what? I am. And I said, and every book could be a different thing to celebrate. And so we kind of just talked about it. And she was like the first person to validate the idea, which sometimes I feel like when you have an idea, you just want someone to say, that's a great idea. You should do it. And so, that's what moms are for. And she really encouraged me and was so excited about the idea. I thought, you know what, I'm going to do it. I'm going to write a children's book, and knew absolutely nothing about writing in general, like a story like that, how to publish and all of that. And it took me 8 years to really like figure all of it out. And I wrote the manuscript, and I probably revised it 80 times. And it started where I had friends and family and other people read it and give me feedback. And I had a small group of friends within that read it like ad nauseum. I mean, they read it over and over again to the point where I was like, I am so sorry that you have now just become my editors. And they were like, no, we're so excited. And so a lot of people just revised and gave me a lot of feedback. And then I really had to learn about the different paths to publishing, because you can publish whether it's traditionally, which is where a lot of people, it was the only way to publish. You had to submit a manuscript and get a literary agent, try to get it acquired with one of the publishing houses. And that is a really long process. And that was the path I was very focused on for the first 5 years. And I got the literary agent. We went out on submission and all of those sort of different things. And then COVID hit. here I am with this party planning celebratory book when our world literally cannot, be within how many feet of each other, and parties were clearly not happening. And every publishing house rejected it. They were like, no, it's not the time. Love the story, think it's really cute, but definitely can't do anything with this right now. There's way too many other issues going on in the world that we need to focus on. And I continued to kind of revise the manuscript in a way where whether COVID was happening or not, I still felt like kids need to know how to celebrate, and really talking about other sort of things that are worth celebrating. So whether it's a new season, a new neighbor, your family, there's always something to celebrate, I think, if you know how to look for it. And so that's kind of what the story is about. And I just decided, after I went out on submission, they declined it. My literary agent had spent several months on maternity leave, and she was kind of going through some things within her own agency. And I just decided, I'm so tired of waiting. This has been so many years. I'm just going to self-publish this myself. I've already spent all this time, trying to learn how to do everything else. Why don't I just finish it? So from there, I decided to learn everything about self-publishing and built a team of different people that I found through different platforms that were amazing, and got connected to a company called Advocate Art. They're a global agency that represents illustrators and art directors, and they are wonderful. And so I've worked with them and got lined up with my amazing illustrator, who is Yulia Gorkina. I always mispronounce her last name, but she's over in Belgium. She's amazing. And with them, and we spent about a year and a half developing the book, and I did all the art direction really for it, and the text placement and all of those sort of things. And it was just the most amazing process out of anything I've ever done. One of the most special things and experiences I've ever had. And so I found a printer that I worked with overseas, got the books. They all came off a UPS truck, and it was crazy. And so from there, it's just been so special to see how kids and families and people have connected with the character and the story. And schools have invited me in to share the story, and we'll do different things there and assemblies. And they're so enamored with the character. And it just is there's so many things that are a part of it that I didn't really expect. And it's just been so fun. And I want everybody to publish a book now, because I feel like I meet people all of the time that say, how did you do that? I want to publish a book. And I'm like, you can do it. I will share all that I've learned with you, because it's just been, it's so fun. And it's such a great creative outlet that I feel like people don't really know exists, because they might not think like that there's a way to just do it. But there really is. In today's world, there are so many different ways to publish something.
That's so fun. That's a long process, though.
Oh,
it's really been a labor of love.
No, it was I mean, the valleys and mountains and, everything in between. But it was great when you have an idea. And it was another reason I decided to self-publish is, it was my idea, and it was something that I wanted to own. I realized I didn't really want to sell it or have it get acquired by another publisher, because when they acquire it, they can change it. It's theirs. They bought it. So it was just something that I really decided to hold on to closely. It was something that obviously I spent a lot of time talking to my mom about. So it was something really special with us. And now something that I share with my kids. So they know what an author is, and they know what the book is, and they're so proud to, see the book come. And they're kind of like my market research group. I ask them all the time, what do you think of this? Like, sort of thing. And they'll give me feedback like, no, mommy, that's not funny. And it's like, oh, okay. Just tweak it a little bit. So it's been awesome. It's been a lot of fun.
That's so cool. Back to your days. So your kids are asleep, your husband might be working, and now's your time to work on the book. What does the rest of your evening look like?
Yeah. So following that, when we wind down, I feel like we I usually go to bed first. So I usually try to go to bed around 10:30. My husband stays up for maybe another hour. He's probably catching up on work, or he is a sports fanatic. So there's usually some sort of football game or something that, Bruins hockey, something that is on. So he usually will do that, and I'll, head to bed. But that time at night is really, it's the only time that we get, and where we're able to kind of chat about whether it's anything with us, with our days, with what's coming up, with the kids, our schedules. We're both so busy. He works in real estate, so he is constantly going to. And so we just try to get on the same page. But it's really also the only time we get to decompress, obviously, too. So sometimes it's usually just an easy night, a show, a little Love is Blind. I usually head to bed first, and then he'll follow about an hour later.
How do you stay organized? So let's focus first on work, and then I have some questions about how you stay organized and kind of the long-term planning for the book. But work-wise and family-wise, how do you stay organized?
It is so hard because I am not a naturally organized person. So I'm just not wired like that. And I have a lot of friends that are, and I have asked them how they stay organized I very much need to put a plan together and almost put the plan together before trying to get things organized. Just a system. So whether it's like doing laundry on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and then doing sheets on Thursdays, things like that. So I try to break certain things up, but a lot of the time I feel like I'm very much, at least at this point in my life, because there are so many things that are up in the air, I'm kind of flying by the seat of my pants, where I'm in a very reactive state, where I'm just trying to kind of get ahead. But I feel like when I put systems in place and I have something to follow, for me, that's how I can stay organized. I give myself different goals, different sort of things like, okay, we got to get the house situated by Friday. Right now, I'm trying to turn our downstairs, it's the boys' old bedroom, into an office, but I need a desk. I have all these things I need to do. So I just try to give myself deadlines. Okay, by Thursday, you got to, the same way I do at my job. We have deadlines, we have goals, we have all of those things. I try to bring some of that into what we have going on in our own life and use those to the best that I can. But it's super hard, super hard.
I appreciate you admitting that you're not naturally organized, because I love that when some people are like, everything's just organized. It's just how I just am always organized, but some people aren't. And I think that having those systems and understanding that you need those systems to get yourself in order or get things happening is a really good introspection.
Yeah. I think it's important to know too, like what everyone has strengths, everyone needs help in certain areas. I just have to put more effort into staying organized. And I grew up with 3 other siblings. So I'm the oldest of 4, and I felt like I grew up in a state of chaos. So I feel like I can create like chaos and things like that a lot better than like other people might, but that's all doesn't mean that that's how you should like live. So, and my husband is the organized one. So that's, I think, where we come in, where we are very, very different, but he is very organized. He is very neat. He likes to have, every place has a home. So we try to do our best and work together. And the way I live totally drives him crazy, but we, just try to be as respectful as we can to each other. I mean, I am who I am, but he just wants things a certain way too. So we just try to help each other out as much as we can.
I love that. In terms of staying organized for the book and kind of your work on that front, how do you organize? Similar, I'm guessing, but how do you organize that, or do you have any tools there that you use?
Yeah, so I think with the book is a little bit easier to stay organized because it's pretty like when you look at the length of how long it takes to write a book and then go through the illustration process and then print the book, it's pretty separated, and it has very focused moments. So I feel like it's easier because right now the illustrations for the next book in the series are nearly done. So we just spent the last 6-7 months focusing on the illustrations and the text placement and where everything is going and rough sketches, and then sharing feedback on that. But as far as staying organized with the book, I think it just comes back to having a plan and having a timeline and then having goals. I think too, when you have a product that you're trying to put out, the other thing you keep in mind are it's the time of year, right? So I know right now that if I do not get my book to the printer in the next 2 weeks, I have no chance. And I'm already risking it at probably getting it before the holiday. So you kind of take those things into account too when you're building out your timeline, where you're like, okay, I have to launch something here and it needs to arrive by here. And so I think that is really helpful when as far as just when deadlines and things like that happen. And with a book, you have to give yourself deadlines and you have to put a plan together, or it never gets done. You put it off to the side because it's something like personal. You always put your stuff last. And so I feel like putting those sort of things into place is really important. You have to hold yourself accountable. So
yeah. Brings me to my next question is, in terms of your day, what do you do for yourself during the day?
Like barely anything. I feel like I have all these thoughts and plans and ideas, and there have been certain moments in my life where I have it. It's interesting because working from home, you would think that I would have more time for me, where I can take 30 minutes. I look at my Peloton every day and it's like, you know what? Today is the day I'm going to get back on and I'm going to say hi to my friend Cody. But I don't get on it. So it's like I get busy and caught up with everything else that needs to get done. But I think at the end of the day, I go back to reminding myself, like, if I'm not in a good place mentally, physically, and I'm not feeling good, nothing else is going to work. Like, the kids need me. My job takes a lot of energy and a lot of focus. And if I'm not with it, I am not going to be able to do so many of the things that I love. And I have to remember to start with that versus just putting me totally on the back burner. But it was interesting when the boys were babies, which was, a time where my husband and I, we say they were like years we blacked out because it was like so crazy with the kids. But I would get up at 5 a.m. I would work out, I would shower, and I would get totally ready before the kids would wake up. I would then get them situated, and then I would get dressed, like professionally dressed, because I was working in healthcare at the time. And I would go into my job, and we had an au pair that was living with us that would watch the boys, and I would do my work, and then I would come home. And I look back and I'm like, gosh, I was doing even more back then for me. And so why am I not doing that now? It should be so much easier. So it's just interesting. I think it's just something that I definitely don't do enough of. So I keep telling myself every day, I'm going to go to this Pilates class. I'm going to go do this. And I have yet to go, but it is a goal to carve out like at least one 30-minute period where it's just some sort of activity that I'm doing. But I kind of look at like the book outlet, because that is something that is just for me. That is definitely like my time. It's just a time that is dedicated to something that I really love. It's not work related, really. It's just like this passion project that I get to spend time on. So it's almost like an elevated hobby a little bit. Other things I like to do for myself is I also try to read as much as I can.
Are you reading anything good right now? I always love to ask.
So I just got 5-Star Weekend. I mean, I'm very into like the basic, like rom-com, not basic, I shouldn't say that, but 5-Star Weekend is great. Like, her stuff is awesome. I have not read the Colleen Hoover books that everybody, is crazy about. So I feel like I got to get on that train. But just something really simple. I don't try to get too complex with stuff. And then what else do I like to do for myself? I don't know. And then I'm not the best cook. So I want to try and strive to be someone like, My mother-in-law is a phenomenal cook, so I feel like she takes a lot of that off of me because she always hosts holidays and things like that. But I feel like I gotta spend some time focusing on that, and I feel like and that's something that's fun, right? It should be. And so going to try to fold some of that into it as well. But yeah, it's hard finding time for yourself and prioritizing yourself when you have kids and your husband and a job and trying to balance all of that stuff. But it is incredibly important.
It's so interesting that you brought up the difference between how you were taking care of yourself prior to the pandemic and then we're like working in the office versus working from home, because I too have thought about that. Like I would get up super early, do all this stuff, and then get the kid to daycare before like 8. And now like sometimes at 8:45, I'm like, we got to get out of the house. Like, how did we do that?
I know. And it's just, it is a different world that we live in. And I don't know if it's a different mindset or, working from home for me, I feel like my life is more blended. And when things are so blended, then it's almost hard to separate and have focused moments. So, it's like my house now is where my family lives, where all of my different sort of things are that I have to do for the house are all kind of in front of me. Yet I also work here. So I have to get my job done. And even for the book stuff, I do that here. So a lot of it is here. I don't go out like I go out all the time because of the event stuff, but so much of it is here and it's all kind of blended together. And when it's blended together, I just feel like it's almost harder to do that because I was forced to have to get ready and I was going to be in meetings like every day with people and have to be in business wear, and the kid I had to be there by a certain time. Now it's like I could kind of roll out, like I still am like trying to kick the kids like out the door. My husband's taking them to school, but it's like I'm on Zoom calls. I could be in my leggings if I need to. People can't see everything. So I don't know. I'm like, oh God, if I just totally let myself go. But it's I just feel like so many, at least things in my life are so much more blended than they were before. And I feel like it was almost easier to separate things and to prioritize certain things because you had to, because we were going into the office and we were, life was so different.
Yeah, that's such an interesting difference that we've lived through. In terms of your relationships with friends, how do you make time for your relationships with friends in your current schedule?
So I am so lucky to have a really great group of friends that, I've held on to. I have like my best girlfriend from Minnesota. I would say like she is one of a couple of, I have her that I talk to all of the time, and her and I stay in probably the most touch on the Marco Polo platform, as ridiculous as that sounds, because I feel like we are so caught up during the day with our kids or work or whatever it is. And on Marco Polo, she was like, just get on here so we can chat with each other. And it's on your terms of when you're free. And you almost feel like you're sitting on the couch with them chatting, whether it's with coffee or wine or whatever. So that's how her and I stay in like the most contact. And then I always make time to spend a night with them when I'm home in Minnesota visiting my family. I'll spend some time with her. And then when I worked for the Bruins, there was a really just wonderful group of friends that I made while I was there. And we have just stayed in really close touch, and we don't get to see each other that often. So I feel like just even sending text messages and checking in and social media, I think one of the plus sides, I guess, of it is I still feel like I know what's going on in all of their lives. And then we try to get together and we'll try to do dinner every couple of months if we can. And you have those friends. I feel like now we're at this age where we don't have to talk to each other every single day to like let them know like how you feel. It's just, so there's some friends that I have that I consider really close friends of mine, and I'll go a couple of months without seeing them. And then I get together with them, and it's like, you just pick up right where you left off. And there is this mutual understanding, I think, amongst everyone, because we are so busy, whether it's with work or with kids or whatever it is, that, we just try to do the best that we can. And we give each other, I think, just a lot of grace and a lot of room for whatever, because I don't know, I just feel like we have a lot of mutual respect for each other, and we're just really understanding, and everyone tries to make an effort to the best that they can. And if they can't right then at that moment, we don't freak out over it, because it's like, if they can't come on this weekend trip because a kid got sick, I mean, that's just like part of life. So I think it's important to try to plan one thing once a year with your friends. And so I try to do that with a couple of different groups of my friends, but it's few and far between. But I would say like 2 to 3 times a year, we'll try to do some sort of special outing, whether it's like we go to a concert, we do an overnight in the city, we do a girls' weekend, something like that. But you have to just put an effort in to make those plans. It just comes back to planning and picking a date far in advance, because it's too hard to try to do something like, hey, are you free next weekend? Because no one's free. It's, we have kids' activities, and, we're forced to now hang out with all of our kids' friends, parents, and stuff like that. I'm lucky, at least my kids' friends, parents are awesome, and we're starting to get to know them really well. But, it's just a different time. It's just an interesting time, but friends they're so important. And those people that have been with you, I think, during this era are the ones that will kind of stay with you for the rest of your life.
Absolutely. How do you make time for your relationship with your husband during the week?
So another challenge, because again, I feel like, our life and relationship is just, it changes so much when these like little humans come into the picture. And
Yeah.
It's like we now have to come together as this team with any like little project. And it's like, okay, so we have these like 2 humans that we have to keep alive, and they just, sometimes they can just suck the life right out of you. And it's like, I have no energy for literally anything else. So it can be really, really hard. But we have found that I feel like now, because life is so busy, and again, it's the same thing, just finding ways to make time. We're really lucky that my in-laws, they're lovely, they're amazing. The kids are crazy about them. They live close by. They live very busy lives too, but they are having kind of, whether it's your in-laws or babysitters, having someone that you can go to that you trust to care for your kids so you can make time for your partner or your husband or wife is just so important. And we are really lucky that we have met some really wonderful people since the kids have been born to help us step in and watch them, so we can go to dinner and we can do a weekend. And so I feel like just trying to be mindful of all of that. And then also just really learning as we've continued to grow and change. As I was saying, my husband really likes to have things organized, and he's much more organized than I am. So there's certain times when I have some free time. It's like, you know what? I'm going to just do a deep clean of this and this and this. And it's like, that I know means a lot more than something else might. So just kind of trying to hone in on what matters to them versus what matters to you, I feel like is something that, we're trying to work on, that we've talked about over the last, couple of years. But I feel like, yeah, you gotta make time for it. Because if you don't, you all of a sudden look at each other after several months. It's like, oh my God, where have you been? How's it going? So you just get caught up so much with the kid stuff. And it's hard. It's hard.
It totally is. I would love to find the magic key there, to not get caught up in it. But I can feel you. Question that I was thinking about, as an event planner, do you have kind of phases leading up to some of those big events that just absolutely alter your schedule and your ability to be home at certain times? Like, how does that, I imagine there's somewhat of a cyclical nature leading up to events, but like, how does that look for you? And how do you and your partner or your additional support system cope there?
Yeah, it's really, it's challenging, because working in events, the same way I say, like, certain things can suck the life out of you, events can too. I mean, they are exhausting and draining, and they take so much thought, where you're putting this giant puzzle together. I feel like in every vendor and every move is a certain piece to ensure that it it comes together for your company and for all of the guests that are attending, and you just want everyone to have a great time. So I feel like those few weeks leading up to an event, I am usually found working. Like the book stuff gets like pushed aside, and I am like very dialed in to all of those last minute things. And I'm working usually from 8 until 11. And then we'll get up the next morning, spend some more time even before the kids get up, just for those few weeks. And then the week of, usually like the 2 days leading up to the event, sometimes it's been the week of the event, I have had to pull in some extra care to grab the kids from school, get them situated, because I am just working through the time. And I know that if I don't start until 8, I'm not going to get done until 1 or 2. And then I'm a mess the next day. And so I'll pull in some extra support there. But we're really lucky. When the boys were born, we had 2 different au pairs that lived with us that watched the kids. And one of them ended up getting married and stayed and is still they're both a part of our life. And the other one ended up moving back to Boston as well. So the boys are crazy about them. So we're lucky where we can, if we need someone to watch the kids, to babysit, or so I can get some more stuff done, they have been right there to kind of help us on several occasions. So I think it just goes back to like, who is that pool of people to pull in for some extra support? But usually it's the night before an event. I am there until midnight, sometimes later. And then I am back the next morning there all night. And I usually will share with the kids. And so they know like that mommy's going to be gone for the next, couple of nights. I'll come check on you when I get home. And so I think just giving them a little bit of a heads up and, letting them know, but they get it. They understand. They're never thrilled about it. But, and then my husband too, it's just overly communicating. Sometimes I'll say something and it's like kind of in one ear and it's like, well, he'll say like, oh, wait, when are you going to be gone? And I'm like, oh yeah, no, I'm gone for like the next 3 nights. So that means like, pretend I'm in Hawaii. I'm on vacation. I'm actually not here because of how crazy things are. But a lot of it is just, again, putting a plan together, I think, for you and the kids and overly communicating. And I have just learned to add more time than I feel like is needed, because literally every event I have produced and done has had some sort of issue or something that has come up that has derailed something and has taken longer than expected.
And what is that, Murphy's Law? Like that, it's never going to go exactly as you plan it. And
it's almost like laughable. Like some things come up now and I'm like, you know what? I'm not even surprised that this would occur. So
who do you go to for career advice, either for book side or event side? Like who do you rely on for those types of things?
So for career advice, I have been so lucky. Like there is a mentor I have in my life. My previous boss that I worked for 10 plus years, I worked as the director of events for Spalding Rehabilitation Hospital. So we raised money through different events for the organization. And I worked for someone, his name's Steven. And I feel like he is one of the best mentors I have ever had. And many people feel like this if they have been around him. And I always have gone to him, even when I left the hospital and took this job and I had to share with him that I had this opportunity. He asked me so many questions and things to be mindful of. And he is really like my go-to person. And when it comes to career advice and what makes the most sense, and he knows me and John and the kids really well. And so he is really that go-to person that I'll go to for career advice. And then for stuff with the children's book, I have this very small group of girlfriends, my friends Katie and Erin. I call them like my editorial team because of how much stuff I share with them. I go to them for their feedback on, do you think I should do this or should I do that? And between them and then 2 other girls I used to work with at the hospital that also have kids, so I should say all 4 of them have very much a piece and hand in Betty the Confetti Yeti and The Future. And I feel like they are my go-to people because they will be very honest and transparent. And they'll be like, Lindsay, that is horrible. Like, no, don't take that on. Like, don't try to roll out this other product. And, they keep my feet on the ground a little bit and give me a lot of sort of advice. And also my sister-in-law is like super, super talented. She works in advertising. So she is just like an amazing resource. I'm very close with her. I always will call her and bug her and ask her for some advice because she is just so knowledgeable in that area. So I'm really lucky to have such smart, wonderful, loving people to help take all of my ideas, my dreams, right? And like try to help them like happen. It's not theirs, like, and they spend time helping me do that. So it's, I'm lucky.
So Lindsay, where can people learn more about you and follow you?
Sure. So I'm on social media. I am Confetti Cadigan, and you can follow me there. I do have the Confetti Yeti as a separate handle that I really haven't rolled out. So the best way to reach me is online at Confetti Cadigan. You can also go to the website to learn more about the book at theconfettiyeti.com. And
that rolls off the tongue so well. Can't wait to get the book.
I was thrilled to get the URL, but yes, so the confettiyeti.com will have all of the information about the current book and where I'll be sharing about my next project and what's going to be happening with the story.
That's awesome. And then Lindsay, what is your favorite part of a day in your life?
My favorite part of the day is probably, I mean, it depends on so much, but I really love the mornings that I have with my boys and making them the pancakes and giving them the breakfast. I really love that time with them. And then as well as my husband. So I feel like that is just a really special time just because the evenings can get kind of hectic and we can kind of be passing ships a little bit. But the mornings, whether it's during the week and especially on the weekends, are also like really great. Like my husband will get in the mix like with waffles and other stuff too. And it's a really, really fun time. So even though the book stuff is so fun and I love events, the family time is obviously where it is at. And the most important part of my life is that. And so that's my favorite part of the day. It's being with them.
That's awesome. We also do a lot of pancakes in the morning. So who doesn't love pancakes in the morning with your kids?
Yeah, totally.
Thank you, Lindsay, so much for being a guest on today's episode. I can't wait to share, and it was so great to connect.
It was so fun.